Elliot,
Hello.
I'd like to welcome you to the most inconsistent podcast known to the internet.
Yeah, on that note, we'll be back next week.
Yep, we'll be back next week at a day and time soon to be decided.
Alright. Why, I've got to ask, why don't your clocks go forward at the same time as us? We live on the same fucking planet. Wow.
I don't know why. Well, okay, let's start with, I don't know why our
Ish.
clocks move to begin with. I think daylight
Yeah, well,
saving
let's
time is
ignore
fucking
the
dumb.
let's ignore the psyop for a second, because we all know it's a psyop, but it's fine.
No,
why
I
don't
have
they just
absolutely
move
no
at the same time? Wait,
Yeah, so
this is
so
insane.
for context for everyone, British clocks moved this past weekend, right?
Yeah.
And American clocks, unless you're in Arizona, move this coming weekend.
Right.
If you're in Arizona, your clocks never move because they deemed daylight
They
saving
they
time
deemed it a
illegal.
psyop. Yeah.
They deemed it illegal and moved.
That's
on.
so good.
But so
That's
so
really
we-
no. Sorry, that's brilliant. I didn't know that about Arizona. That is the best thing
Yeah.
I've ever heard.
Yeah, no, they just deemed it legal. I think there's one county in Arizona that then went back on that. So the entire
Nonsense.
state minus one county doesn't do it.
So if you just you can walk a meter, and you go back an hour
Well,
in
it's
time.
actually- It's supposed to be a problem this time of year because if you work in that county or live in that county and work outside of that county, you're a little fucked on your times.
Yeah,
Because you have to keep track of what's the time of the next town over or something like that.
yeah, which makes
And
no
they-
sense.
Yeah, it's
I
a little
mean,
confusing.
I'm gonna say I work events in Europe all the time from England, or they're an hour ahead. So every time they give me, I actually have to then figure out. And then it was worse the other day because we did an event where the event was in the US, but I was using a Swedish computer remotely. So I was an hour away from the Swedish time, and then they were 6 hours away from the US time, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So, and I had to set the time in American using what the Swedish people. So the Swedish people would say put it at 6:10, which is 5:10 for me. But then I actually had to set it at the American time of. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Why can't everyone just use the same time?
I honestly believe this year that my most used Google search query is what time is it in X place?
Right.
Because
I don't know what mine is, but it's
our
not
editor
that.
and our producer are both Pacific time.
Yeah.
I'm Eastern time. You're British time. But we have had to work on Central Eastern European time as well.
Yeah.
Or Central European Standard Time or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, when I was in Cologne,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, so we span time spans here. All right, we have a quick show for you folks today. We're going to talk about Blast Premiere and the couple of moves that have happened in the last couple of minutes. Elliot and I were talking about this before the show, but it feels like even though there are events going on, like the Blast Premiere World Final, it feels like we are in the lull before the storm. We know the major is about to happen.
Yeah, everyone's ready for the major, and it's just come on, let's get this blast thing out the way.
Yeah,
Not to be too disrespectful, but let's get this blast shit out the way so we can start the RMRs.
We are officially a week and a half out from the RMR starting, and once RMRs start, we are in non-stop, full speed ahead major.
Yeah,
time.
we're like Charlie Sheen. We have one speed, go.
All right, so
that's a joke straight from the mid 2000s for you all.
All right, let's start with Blast Premiere World Finals. We have watched some of this. There have been a whole 4 matches. All the opening matches have gone on. I watched the G2 Liquid match, which I will say was the most important match for us to watch as a group.
Can we alright. We've said this before. We'll
Yeah.
probably say it again. G2
Yes.
are the funniest team in the world.
Correct.
They are simultaneously the best and the worst team in the world, and nothing sums them up more like losing 13-0 on the first map and still winning more rounds in the series than Liquid.
Yeah.
They just battered them on the other two maps. They are a frankly ridiculous team. I mean, I remember North doing it where they lost 16-0 on the first map and then winning the next two in a semi-final. But the fact that I'm even mentioning North tells you how rare this is,
Yeah.
because North don't exist anymore and haven't for a long, long time. I will say, I think 13-0s are significantly more likely to happen than a 16-0. And I think
agree.
we see a lot more 13-0s. I think it's obvious because it's just quite simply a 50% chance happening 13 times. 50%, let's say, for example, it's a 50% chance. And that happening 13 times in a row is more likely than 16 times in a row by a significant margin. Even if it's 80% chance, they're a much better team. 80% to the power of 13 is significantly more likely than 80% to the power of 16.
And even if we don't just use standard statistics like that and think about it logically, of there are 3 less rounds and a half, and then the pistol round is who the fuck cares.
Yeah.
That 13th round is stupid, right? So you pick 12 rounds in a row, and with the same economy that we had in Global Offensive, and it's a lot easier to string together rounds. There we go. I would like to note that Snacks, I think Pimp talked about this on Twitter. And I need to find this week because I want to confirm what I'm saying before I do it. Snacks has currently a non-positive KD streak of 36 maps in a row.
I mean, yes. It's not good. It's not good.
It's not good.
It's not good. But it's also not really the point, is it?
No, but I think...
It's not good.
I think there was some unreasonable expectation when Snacks came in that, he's going to be a major upgrade over Hooksy. And you and I did not think this. I'd like to note that off the gate. That
I'm not sure I saw anyone say it, to be honest.
I definitely saw people say that Snacks was an upgrade over Hooksy. But, I don't know what people really expected Snacks to do in this position.
Who cares, man? It's fucking Snacks. You're not signing Snacks in Big 2024 because you're expecting him to outfrag Nico. I think what's more worrying is that he
outfragged Hunter.
He did more damage than Hunter. He didn't outfrag him. He did more damage than him. And had a higher rating than him. Again, Hunter's kind of been mediocre for a while now. He has these... He spikes, and then he plateaus, and then he dips again. But he's just not the same player he was 2 years ago. And that's kind of... But then, it just doesn't matter. Hunter and Snacks can be terrible for a series, and they'll still win because they just have Nico, Malves, and Monacy. It literally doesn't matter.
So I was watching some... There is a podcast on... a basketball podcast, and I don't listen to it, but I see clips of it every once in a while. I don't remember if it's the Deep Three or it's Numbers on the Board, but it's one of the two of them, and I see their little short videos all the time. And in one of them, they did a draft of you pick a team and you draft the 5 best players of that team to make the best
in history.
Yeah, in history to make the roster, right? And so they were doing it actually it had to be the Deep Three because this made sense. One of the guys was a Laker fan, so he was doing the Lakers draft, and he started with, okay, we'll take Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James. It didn't matter what the other 2 people that he picked
No,
were.
it kind of doesn't. You could just start with Austin Reeves at the point. It doesn't really matter.
He finished
Alex
with
Caruso
Magic
in there.
Johnson,
You need a good worker.
Magic Johnson, Anthony Davis, but it doesn't matter.
I'll be honest. I think Magic Johnson, he's in that tier. He's in the tier with LeBron. I'm not getting into this, but he's in the tier with LeBron and Kobe.
I agree, but my point is, you've picked 3 players who have been in the conversation forever of top players in the world. It doesn't matter who the last 2 people. You could put Bronny James on the roster.
But he then also picked a 4th, one of the 4th, probably. There's probably 4 of the top 20 basketball players ever on that lineup.
Absolutely is.
Yeah,
but
maybe top 10. 15,
but point is, you could put me and Bronny James on that roster, and it would still be the best.
It would still
roster
be good. That's and Bronny James and Snacks is kind of about as good as each other, I think. But I think it just misses. Complaining about Snacks misses the point. It's it doesn't matter.
Because Hunter is Bronny James and Nico is LeBron in this situation. They're related, and
Hunter
got there from nepotism.
Yeah, okay. But, analysing G2 misses the point. They're not a team that are supposed to be analysed. They exist. They're really funny. They're great to watch. you're missing the point by trying to figure out what's going on when you watch them. Like, they're not supposed to have an in-game leader. They're not supposed to have strategy. They're just meant to be a bundle of chaos that you throw in every event to start a fire. Like, they might go out last. They might win the whole thing by accident. It doesn't really matter because they just get to watch Monacy like hit people round corners and Mouths 1D people. Like, nobody's watching G2 to watch the depth of their strategy, and anyone who complains about G2 don't play good Counter-Strike doesn't really like Counter-Strike.
So, the rest of this tournament, just so that way everyone's on the same page here, has very good teams in it. The other side of the Group B bracket, which is where the G2 Liquid game were, includes Spirit winning 2-0 against Vitality.
It is Vitality with a stand-in.
It is Vitality with Jax.
Who did bottom frag, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
Again, like Jax,
but
Jax is like a lot older than people thought. Like, people thought when he signed he was a lot younger than he's like 32 now. You're like, well,
yeah, he is older.
Yeah, he's
than
like, yeah, exactly. Like, that's when you put it like that. It's like, oh shit, shit. Yeah, Jax is old and he hasn't practiced with them. Like, they're not going to be good.
On the other hand, it's Jax, and I kind of just have imminent faith that Jax works in this team.
Oh, everyone loves Jax for a reason. Like, he's just a good guy. Like, he's just a good guy to have on a team because he does all the shit you don't want to do. He's a Mr. Muscle.
Which is impressive because he is French, and we have made our opinions well known on the French.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm a little biased on the subject, you know.
All right. Group A, Na'Vi and Astralis, and if you were betting, yes, that's correct. Astralis did win.
I don't know.
Apparently, they've had some time to practice with Cadian now, and Stown and Yabi looked like they knew how to play the game again, which was questionable for a bit
in a group stage.
Yeah,
so should be mentioned.
By definition, this team will fall apart the second they make playoffs. I think they are guaranteed playoffs.
I will say that would be. And I know people have forgotten this after so many years of Astralis being good. But Astralis being good in group stages and falling apart in playoffs would be real Astralis heritage.
One of my first memories of watching Counter-Strike is E-League Major 2016, the first major.
2017, I think.
When they won in Atlanta.
They beat Virtus Pro.
When they beat Virtus Pro, and they were on like TV every day in America, which... Yeah. Well, I can go on a whole side tangent about the fact that E-League was on a couple nights a week in America, and I could watch Counter-Strike on TV. Where I remember Richard Lewis saying, Astralis, you got to talk about them ahead of the major because they never actually win the thing and they never go super deep, but they always could. Yeah. And then they won the major.
Obviously, the obvious comparison in football, people always say, was Arsenal. Arsenal for years and years would always finish fourth and never higher, never lower. But I actually think the Astralis story is more like Spain. Spain, when I was growing up, were always like they've always got this super talented team and they could win the World Cup and the Euros, but they got a bit of a soft underbelly, and that's how Astralis always felt. And then obviously, once they broke their duck, once they broke the seal, they couldn't stop pissing. So now they're kind of bad again. They've got Stown and Cadian and Yavi, who were always so good in group stages and then would shit it in playoffs. It would be true. They would truly be back to their roots if they were as good as they were in Heroic and they started choking in playoffs again. But I mean, beating Navi 2-0, 13-6, 13-6, it's never a bad result. Like, no, that's always a good result. Always a result to hang your hat on and look, we are good. I will say, the old saving strats for majors, I do wonder how much the big teams are taking this event seriously. It is a big trophy, but it's a long flight, and it's right before the major.
I don't know how much of a long flight it really is. And there's a reason I say this. I know it is actually timely a long flight, but they are going to Singapore, and the major is in Shanghai. So my assumption is that teams will go directly from Singapore to Shanghai, considering the major starts.
It's like 2 weeks.
No, it's not 2 weeks.
It's like 11 days, I think.
From the end of this event, it will be 8 days.
Yeah, I mean that's like a week that you could go home to your family before going to China.
But you also could just boot camp in China.
You could boot camp in China, but then are you really getting good practice boot camping in China? Not to be disparaging,
Well,
but like,
I mean,
there's a reason.
the same. It's
The
the
reason
same thought
Mongols
as
go to Europe.
It's the same thought as the world's scrim bubble in League of Legends. That like all the teams are right now in Europe.
Yes,
and
but
the
I
players
don't think
go to Europe.
I don't think all the teams are going to go to Shanghai until 2 days before.
Unless they all.
I guess if
have-
all the world final teams went, they could just scrim with each other. But
Yeah, which is good practice still, and then
It
you
is.
get other teams that will go, hey, look, all the world final teams are there. Let's go early.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is a fair
It
comment.
requires a couple teams just having a conversation and then
Yeah.
doing it or not doing it.
I think they'll probably go home first, personally. But
So there is
I
something
kind
to
of
be
like
said.
I kind of like your idea.
It's world scrim bubble. Like
Yeah.
that's all it is. It's you go there, and especially because they get used to the time.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because it's a big time zone change too, so you get used to it. You get used to being there. You don't want to fly in the day before the event, especially with this event the size of the major, and especially because it's into RMRs. It's not straight into the major, so you want to hit the RMRs good like early and well, because otherwise you don't make the major.
yeah.
Like there are stakes involved. There's like a full porterhouse ready to go here.
I've been watching a lot of cooking shows the last few days, so I was immediately thinking of steak before you said it. So I almost didn't even register that it was a joke.
I was having a conversation with my sister last night on FaceTime, and I had said, "There's real stakes here," and then I just started listing stakes off. Like I listed like
Yeah,
10
it's a good
stakes
dad.
off.
It is a good dad joke, isn't it? Like,
It was great. The last match that happened today was the FaZe Mouse match.
can I quickly tell you about a really good dad joke I made?
Oh yes, please.
So, not to dox myself, but there was me, my mom, and my wife. Now, we travelled to somewhere where it was, and the street name was Earl's Close, and I just said to my mom, I was like, "Oh, be careful." I was like, "What? What are you saying?" Like, "What? Earl's Close."
It's like saying to a
It's
sign that
really
you
good.
see that says "road work ahead," and you go, "I sure hope
Road
it does."
work ahead. I sure hope it does.
I don't know when that Vine came out, but it's got to be like 10 years ago, and I still say that shit.
It's really good. It is really good. It's a perfect joke.
Exactly. All right, Mao's FaZe was the last match. As very well documented on this show, we do not believe FaZe is actually a decent team anymore,
No, but they always have it in them to beat Mouse.
except for today.
Well, yeah, but
Except for today.
you know, they're trying to build the tension, and then you're like,
I
oh, actually,
did
no.
see.
They always have it within them to beat Mouse, and they nearly did. To be fair,
I started to see people saying, "I don't know if FaZe is an elite team anymore. I feel they are more
they haven't been for a
to the
long
elite
time.
team."
Yeah,
I agree, but it seems to be seeping into the general public now.
yeah. The general public's always like a couple months behind me. It's just the way it is. You get used to it eventually.
I think they're still behind you on the North thing.
Well, look, I was telling people that Deagle body shots are overpowered for like 2 years, and everyone was like, "Oh, you don't get time to shoot people twice in pro play," which is obviously insane. And then Rops just decided one day he was just going to start body shotting people. The Deagle was like, "This is really overpowered." Like, well, I thought you couldn't get 2 shots off. I thought you literally only ever got 1 shot off in pro play, and it actually wasn't worth buying the M4 because you only ever dink people. Idiots, a lot of them.
So I think at this point, let's take some bets. Confirmed people making playoffs is Astralis, Mouse, G2, and Spirit. And then one of FaZe, Na'Vi, and one of Liquid Vitality will make it. I don't have matchups because
I feel like this is a
impossible to figure
weird
this
way
out.
to do a format.
It kind of is.
8 teams and you only lose 2 in the group seems really strange.
I
to
feel
me.
like
it
you
should
should-
just be a 14
It should
playoff.
be 14 playoff, yeah.
Maybe do double elim if you want to do 3 days. Do you know what I mean? Like do double
Yeah.
elim 14 playoffs if you want.
I'd be
You're kind
fine
of
with
mad, but
double elim 14 playoff is fine by me.
it just
With
it seems
the
pointless to have a
replay-
group stage to only lose 2 teams. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I don't have an issue.
Yeah.
Like, in fact, I would be in favor.
Yeah, I don't know.
We don't need all 6 teams here. So if
I don't
Na'Vi,
like 16 playoffs generally, but
if Na'Vi are willing, or if Na'Vi are able to beat FaZe,
they should be.
which they should be able to.
If they're taking this event even remotely seriously, they should. be
Yeah,
able to
that
do
would
this.
put them in the A third place slot, and they would face the loser of G2 Spirit. I don't think it matters who
Eminently
they
winnable
face.
game. Eminently winnable.
If Na'Vi make the playoffs, I say they're the favorite to win this event.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, I think to be honest, there's only one team here who I think should really be beating Na'Vi in a playoff. I mean, maybe Astralis apparently can do it.
Yeah,
but I would say that would be Liquid, and they lost to G2. So
oh my god, you missed the opportunity. You could have said there's only one team that could be a dark horse to beat Na'Vi.
I get annoyed at the phrase dark horse because it's just people use it so badly, and I just don't want to. I don't want to misuse it for a pun because it winds me up when people misuse it generally.
I tend to agree, but in the context of this event, Liquid is the dark horse team.
Like when teams pick like the 5th best team in the world as a dark horse for an event, that's not what a dark horse is.
No, but in this event of which there are 8 teams,
there's no dark horses. There's no dark horses on a team of 8 teams where they're all good.
Except for the team with the literal dark horse as their logo, but it's just a different type of dark horse.
Yeah, but isn't the horse is blue in the logo? I was thinking the horse was white in the logo.
It used to be white. It used to be white with light blue.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So it's not a Mandela effect thing.
No,
okay.
You're good. All right. Na'Vi should still be the favorites to win this event. I understand they lost the opening round. I don't care.
Yeah, basically.
Here's they beat Maus. They beat Astralis in playoffs because Astralis in playoffs is just heroic. It's the Scooby Doo meme where they go, "Who are you?" And they
take the Astralis. Look, sometimes Stown drops 38 or 39 on you in a group stage, and there's nothing you can do. It just happens. He won't do it in playoffs, so it's fine. Quote me on that. If next week Stown goes crazy in the playoffs, if he gets 39 in a series, and it's not like him going 39 and 56 in 8 overtimes, then I'll be like, oh yeah, fine, you got me. He did do it in playoffs.
We have no problem coming back and stating that we were wrong.
I have a problem with it, but I will do it.
All right, let's go back and have some chats about some other roster moves that have happened.
Yep.
Let's start with the never-ending Bleed saga. So they played under the name UNPAID for a minute. UNPAID went to the RES Regional Championship, which was an event. They got second place there. Everyone went, oh look, they're UNPAID, which goes incredibly hard on a shirt. I think UNPAID on a shirt is. I think it's slightly worse than Outsiders on a shirt. But so did you see what they did with the shirts later though? They like duct taped over UN. So just as paid after they got second place and they actually got paid from the tournament, just paid, which I think was good. But Kassad came out and said everyone's going their separate ways. So from Kassad, some of the players already received offers by the looks of it, and by the looks of it, everyone will be going their own way. Kassad himself deciding whether to go take another coach role, a GM role, or going back to broadcast. Personally, I'd prefer he stays as a coach GM.
I have no strong feelings.
There have been some we've as a group had some thoughts on evil geniuses in the Kassad territory.
Yeah. I mean, Kassad was right on evil geniuses,
which he was right on, but I feel like we've also been in the
other
direction.
Who was wrong on evil geniuses? Who thought other than Ryan at Dust 2? Who thought evil geniuses were good?
Ryan at Rush B Media.
I'm sorry, Ryan at Rush B Media. Who thought evil geniuses were doing anything intelligent? It's like, yeah, okay, you were the loudest voice against the team everyone thought was bad. It's like, yeah, fine.
Okay.
It'd be like if I said murder is bad,
yeah,
and then a murderer got jailed next week. I was like, I told you. Like, nobody was disagreeing.
So it seems that all of the players are either figuring stuff out. So Cypher's already come out. Plans are to now wait for offers and gather my thoughts about what I think would be the best team for me, which sounds to me like he has an offer or two already. Which, to be fair, if there was a player on this roster that you would take a gamble on, it probably would be Cypher. You've seen highs from him.
Yes.
And you've seen whatever the last 6 months have been.
But Cypher has to be really, really careful. He is at a pretty big fork in the road in his career, I would say, where the next move defines whether you are, like, a good player or, like, HS. Do you know what I mean? Like, what I would call like the HS.
In my
pocket,
head,
like,
it was Zello, but yes, that same idea.
Yeah, well, yeah, fine. Players. I was gonna next time we do a magazine, I wanted to write a. Next time, hopefully we get to do one. I was going to do a piece called "The Anatomy of a Dead Team," and I was going to talk about the types of players that are on dead teams. And there's an archetype of player I call a harbinger, which is when you see their name on a team, you know that team is going to either that team will be bad and disband, or that player will not be on that team in 6 months.
We are going to get to a harbinger in this episode.
Yeah, but like
we can come back to this.
HS was always an example of this for me. For a long time, Calix, Mihu was a harbinger. Arguably Valde, even though he was a very good player, every team he was on just fell to pieces.
Not
Innocent.
It wasn't Sunny. It was one of those players that were playing on the Maus into FPX teams.
I think Innocent was the one I was going to say. It was on the FPX team, but do you mean Zen?
Yes,
Zane.
This is exactly who I meant. The Finnish player. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like these players aren't bad, and in the right situation, they actually are very good players, but either through reputation not catching up with their ability, not quite being at the level they need to be, or personal problems, or in the case of somebody like Issa, like location problems, like he has problems with ping and visas and stuff, they get sort of stuck in this purgatory of the same that sort of tier of team, and they're all rubbish, and they just seem to be going down blind alleys. And Cypher, I think, is in real danger of becoming one of those players that is only ever on dead teams. And I think he needs to be really careful with his next choice and not pick a team that is going to end up like Bleed.
Yeah.
That is going to end up a little bit like Into the Breach.
I was going to say, I would love the Cypher to Gamer Legion or that style of team.
Yeah, I think Gamer Legion's a good one because you tend to move upwards from Gamer.
I was going to say, a team that is known for developing players into good Tier 1 players. We have seen Cypher at Tier 1 in a tournament and know that there is
a player there.
There is
There's
something there.
A player there.
Like we are very hopeful and optimistic about what Cypher can be.
Oh, trust me, I'm extremely hopeful of what Cypher can be. He's a fellow countryman,
He's the best.
I watched him in Paris in the arena, and at that moment in time, he was my favorite player in the world.
Yeah.
At that moment in time, when I was in that arena, he was my favorite player in the entire world. I'd love nothing more than him to be good, but he needs to be very careful with his next move.
So, one of the players from this unpaid roster, so Nexa and Valden both have said they're open for offers. One player already has a new team, which is Jacom, who has landed at BC Game, which is the second time we've talked about BC Game in the last month. Normally you'd go, why have we talked about BC Game so much? And the answer is, because this was the roster Guardian was playing on. Sorry, still is playing on.
He's still playing?
He's still playing.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say...
It was not Guardian for Jacom. It was Jacom for Quartz.
Oh, okay.
KWRTZZ for Quartz on this roster.
Terrible name.
Okay.
Okay, that's more... I was going to say, I remember there was a football, I think it was Idaga Johnson, where he was supposed to play on the same team as his son, and the manager messed up and subbed him off for his son, and I thought this was going to be Kevin. They were going to... It's like, we signed Jacame, it's a really exciting signing, but we're dropping Guardian, the only reason anyone knows who we are. But if it's Guardian and Jacame, all of a sudden I'm interested.
Guardian is a coach player with Jacame. Kashinito from the Apex team that Jacame was on is on this team. Lekro.
Oh my god, I did not realize Lekro was on this team.
I would be willing to say another Harbinger.
He was decent at points in his career. He was on some decent teams. I think it's a little harsh on Lekro.
Okay.
Like his Fnatic team was actually half decent.
And then Prime Taps, who is their other young prospect. It's a big academy.
Not the best name. Not the best name.
No, not the best name.
I'm glad they got rid of Quirts. Prime Taps, maybe have a rethink on that one.
But hey, this team kind of seems reasonable, and
it's
also,
kind of it's old as
old
as hell.
Why would I not watch a team with Jacom, Guardian, and Kashinito playing, and Lekro for that matter? Like,
I'm not
the
gonna
Deagle
lie.
rounds.
It sounds bad.
Deagle rounds, man.
This team sounds bad.
Okay.
Guardian has not been good for a long time.
But just think of Lekro and Jacob in the same server with Deagles.
I mean, fine, but it's also 2025. It's nearly 2025. Look, I liked Lekro a lot, but that was 6 years ago.
All right. We've got one more roster move, and this is the other harbinger, I'd be willing to state, which is former player Golden of Eyeballers, and then
Hang on, Golden won a tournament. He won an S tier tournament. I'm not having this. Not having this.
He won a tournament. That's our baseline here?
Sorry, what tournament did Zayn win?
None. I'm not saying any of them won.
I would say you could argue Valde also won an S tier tournament. Fine, but come on. If I'm saying HS and you're saying Golden,
I did forget that he won Katowice.
Yeah, he won a big. Again, wasn't entirely down to him.
No,
but he did win it. And he was on a good team at some point. I'd like to see Golden, not his biggest fan, but he did have a big moment in Counter. He is his name is somewhere in the great book of Counter-Strike history
as a Katowice winner.
It's a footnote, but he's in there.
So, Barry, the former coach of SAW, was removed.
I think left. I think he left. I'm not certain. They said
Barry parts way with SAW, which is what the line says.
Ominous.
SAW has announced that Barry has parted ways with the team for 3 months of head coach, which came a day after Aradase was benched.
Who needs him?
So they've brought Golden in till the end of the season. That's it.
They don't need a coach. Well,
yeah.
Things. They're very good in ESL Challenger Katowice.
Yeah, so we just saw play and consequently win Challenger Katowice
Comfortably.
Yeah, so they beat BA in the finals 2-0.
Didn't drop them out.
Yeah, they didn't drop them out in the whole thing.
No, they didn't. They were fantastic. They just comfortably the best team.
There were reasonable teams here.
Yeah,
we talked about this event last week.
I think they talked on broadcast about it being possibly the most stacked ESL Challenger ever in terms of rankings.
You and I talked about this last week, and we were like, well, the lowest ranked team here is Monty, and the actual worst team here is Legacy, who could be good on a day.
So I sort of was like, I'm not really interested in Legacy, but I did sort of talk a little bit about Dumao being good. Mate, Dumao's back. Dumao needs a better team than Legacy yesterday. He is. You put him on that Pain team, you put him on that MIBR team, he's an upgrade on most of their players.
I was just thinking him on the Pain team is where it needs to happen.
Dumao, he is really good. So, and unfortunately, he is on a team of players who are not that good.
We also talked about how Bait could be a legitimate team to have an upset.
Yeah, I didn't think they'd have as many upsets as they did. But they caught Eternal Fire on a bad weekend, really. They beat him twice. I mean, they beat him 3 maps in a row.
One was a best of 1 and the other was a best of 3 that was a 2-0.
Yeah, it's hard to argue they weren't better than, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh yeah, it was an upset. They beat them 3 times and 3 maps in a row. That's a legitimate result. Yeah. They beat Pain in the semi-final. I don't really want to talk about Pain because they annoy me. They have not gotten any better than this for a lot. They are so stagnant. They're just constantly the 14th best team in the world, and even at events that they have a chance of winning, they just bottle it in the semi-final every time. They just wind me up. Eternal Fire are out. SAW have got a new player. Monty have got some new. Monty are quite a new team. B8 are in the playoffs. Pain should be fucking licking their lips when they look at that playoffs. They should be licking their lips, and they lose to B8, who we saw just battered.
Can we talk about the elephant that was supposedly in the room?
The goat, you mean?
Falcons was at this event.
The goat in the room. Is the goat in the room with us now? Yeah, I don't know.
Falcons are supposedly here.
Look, nothing. There is nothing you can say more offensive about Falcons than their own coach coming out and saying everything's so bad we might as well see if we can fix simple. Because
okay. First of all, think about the context in which that's at. The coach is 4-time major champion Zonic.
Yeah, I think five.
Five. A lot of majors.
I think 5 times.
The most majors for a coach ever.
Yeah.
Like,
and he's like, yeah, no, this team is there was a joke that used to go around on Twitter, which was the worst thing you can say about somebody is who's this clown, because it suggests that not only are they a clown, they're not even one of the well-known ones. Yeah. Zonic's comment not only says my team is terrible, it also says the star player we've just signed, it might be terrible and we're trying to fix him. Like, who do you think's not bad on this team, Zonic? Like, you ask him point blank who's not bad on this team, and he just shrugs at you.
He doesn't think Magiska's bad.
He's fucking wrong. Magiska's terrible at this event. They're a fucking train wreck. They had like one map that they nearly won, where Simple and Madden both went crazy, and they still lost. And it's like...
so they went to overtime. No, it was overtime against Falcons.
Is it overtime versus Eternal Fire?
They are Falcons. Overtime against Eternal Fire.
Yeah.
And there was a 13-11 map against Saw as well, right? But Dupree was the guy in that map against Saw. And against Eternal Fire, the plus-minus on kill death for Simple and Madden combined was +4. The plus-minus for the rest of the team combined was a lot less.
Yeah, well, so on Dust 2, Simple and Madden had 51 kills combined. In 30 rounds. No, 28 rounds, sorry. 28 rounds, they had, 51 kills combined. Not incredible, but when you've got Simple and Madden dropping those numbers, you should be winning the game.
That's the best Simple has looked in the last year.
Yeah, he looked good when he came back the other day. Like, Simple... This game, certainly, Simple was not the issue. No. He was not the issue. Inferno, you could argue he was an issue. On Inferno, they had a lot of fucking issues, so I wouldn't worry about it. Like, this team is deeply, deeply cooked. And one of the problems with what Falcons are doing, they're fortunate that they have basically near infinite money, but at some point, the Saudi prince is just going to get bored and say, look, you are pissing money up the wall. Because... the problem with buying, and people don't seem to understand this in esports, about how many times I talk about it. The problem with buying old players is if they're bad, or they get worse, or you want to change players, you can't get much money for them. They spent a lot of money to build this team. How many of those players are they going to sell for a decent... You could probably sell Magisk for a decent fee. You're getting nothing for Snappy. You're getting nothing for Dupree, because they're both... the wrong side of 30 quite significantly. In Snappy's case, he cannot frag at the moment. I'm sorry, I love Snappy, but I think he'd admit it himself. He is not as good at this game as he was at CSGO. He's still a good caller, but
yeah,
I think they have deeper issues than that.
We have said for years
I think he's still a good caller.
Snappy's strength is in a scouting and development. Yeah. If you look at this team... who the fuck needs development on this team?
Well,
in theory,
fucking all of them at the moment.
Yeah, apparently all of them. But
I do agree. I think having Snappy on a super team is a waste. But he has spent fucking 13 years developing players. I did feel like he deserved his shot at a super team. Do you know what I mean? Like, all of his peers have had super teams, and he deserves the chance to have a super team. But it hasn't worked. You can argue it's also not a super team, but whatever. It hasn't worked. Individually, I think he's working so hard on trying to fix the team that individually he's just got worse. He doesn't look like... Snappy was a guy who wasn't a good fracker, but he would, a bit like Carrigan, he would just have these maps where he was just unkillable. He was the best player on the server for no rhyme or reason, and he doesn't have those anymore. He doesn't have that in his locker at the moment. This team just feels completely dead, and their coach is basically coming out and saying, yeah, it's dead. They're just waiting till after the major to buy Nico. But
this team does not get better with the addition of Nico.
Oh, it does. It does get better with Nico. Because this team doesn't really play Counter-Strike at the moment. And if you have Nico in Simple, you kind of don't need to. Like, if you have Simple playing like he did on Dust 2 against Eternal Fire, and you have Nico playing like Nico, you actually don't... Like, again, you don't really need the other 3 players to be more than sentient. If they're playing at their peak. If you can have the twin fangs biting down, you don't need any other teeth. You don't need molars. If you've got those twin fangs, you don't need molars.
Don't need molars.
You just need gums. And at the moment, that's all Dupree has, because he's like 48 and he's losing his teeth. Poor Dupree. He just did not have a good tournament. I mean, he was particularly bad in the series they went out. There's nothing else to say. Falcons are just a completely dead team, and they will not exist after the major in this capacity. I suspect they'll be making at least 2 changes, if not 3, after the major.
At least 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that tracks.
I think Madden and Snappy are definitely gone. I think Dupree is probably gone. I think only Magisk and Simple stay.
Yep.
But they're going to have one hell of a fun roster next year.
It'll be something. There definitely will be a reason to watch. Because even if they're not good, you watch them to go, how much fucking money did you spend on this roster?
This is what I wrote in the newsletter. I was like, it's a win-win watching Falcons. Either you get to watch the best player of all time at his peak again, or you get to watch them lose and see like Dupree and Magisk and Zonic look really sad after they fucking ruled the world for 4 years. Like, yeah, not so fucking fun now, is it, Magisk? All these HE grenades doing 20 damage to chip people down. Yeah, where's that gone? Now you're dog shit and losing to Eternal Fire to go out of an ESL Challenger. Fucking 4 years ago, you'd have turned your nose up at going to an event like this. Now you go out last in it.
Now
I don't know why I'm picking on Magisk. I just don't. I hated Astralis back then, and I'm just glad they're getting their comeuppance.
All right, that's gonna be it for us this week. We will be back next week with the preview for the last major of 2024. It's about to get into the exciting season of Counter-Strike. Yeah, one more week to hold on for.
I cannot wait for the RMRs. The last RMRs ever.
The last RMRs ever.
Yeah.
You can find us on Twitter at LoganRamhap, at AZSkin, at ReadTLDR. This episode was produced by James Serpa, edited by Mac. We will be back next week at a time and date soon to be revealed.